to order at 3:04. Roll call, please.
Dr. Luna Najera. Mr. Del Palacio. Mr. Ortega Romero. Mr. Chapman. And Ms. Sun.
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance and the land now will be stated by Mr. Chapman.
The Tolleson High School District Governing Board would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Yaakov and Pequot peoples, and pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. We recognize their enduring connection to this land, their rich culture and language, and the valuable contributions they have made and continue to make in our community. As we gather today for the Tolleson High School District Governing Board meeting, let us remember the significance of these lands and honor the legacy of the original stewards of this territory.
Thank you, Mr. Chapman. And now to call for public hearing to discuss the adoption of the fiscal year 2025-2026 budget. Superintendent guys.
Yes, Madam President, if we get the slides up. I don't know who's. There we go. Put it in the next one. Okay. All right, so we have no changes from the proposed budget, so tonight's adopted budget is the same as the proposed budget. We'll go over, once again, just recapping for everyone who wasn't here at the proposed budget. We'll give the legislative updates and talk about our budget limits, so we can go to the next slide. Maybe back a slide. There we go. All right, so the budget is now officially passed. When we're doing the proposed, all we had was the Senate budget that was on the table, but that budget ended up getting adopted and it was passed. We have a 2% increase for inflation, so that was expected. The expenditure limit has been overridden for 2 years now, and district additional assistance was continued, as was the 123 funding. So those items all ended up making it into the final budget. One other noteworthy thing in this budget is the over $130 million that was awarded to our district for new school construction. So that was also in this budget was $130 million to help us with construction of high school number 8. The budget limits for maintenance operations are at over $182 million in M&O and over $13 million in capital. So again, no changes from the proposed budget, but we do have a call for public hearing tonight, so we can open it up to any budget questions. We did try to do something a little different to make distinction between whether people wanted to speak in the first half during the call for public hearing or speak during the regular meeting with the request to speak. But I don't think that went over as well as we thought, so we're just going to go ahead and give you all the requests to speak. And for anyone who gets called up, if you don't want to speak during this portion of the meeting and you want to wait until the later portion of the meeting, and just let us know and we'll hold your form until the later portion of the meeting.
instructions for those that want to speak on the budget may speak now. If there's any other topic subjects, please wait for a regular public participation. So when I call your name, just let me know if you're here to speak for the budget. Gladys Contreras.
Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing us to ask questions and taking the time to answer our questions. First, my apologies. Today I am ill prepared, unlike our board members that are well prepared. Could you please explain the expenditure limit, Mr. Chapman?
So you can ask the question, it's not directing at one specific member. And I will, when it's budget questions, I will be fielding the budget questions. So an expenditure limit is the most amount that a district can spend in that fund.
Thank you. Could you please tell us how much revenue does the district receive and from what sources does the revenue come from?
Yes, so that is written on the budget form itself. So you'll see revenue estimates in exclusion of sales property tax is listed on page 1. So that is the top of page 1. You don't get a full revenue recap because this is a budget. And so when the district does an annual financial report, that's when you'll get a full revenue report of all the funds that have come in. So the budget is based on projections and estimates. The annual financial report is a recap of all revenue and expenditures, and that takes place in October.
Thank you. Could you please explain what does ADM mean and why it's important?
So ADM stands for Average Daily Membership, and districts are funded based on their average daily membership. So membership goes from the day that the student is enrolled to the day that the student is withdrawn or when they graduate. So it's the time that the student is enrolled. It gets confused often with attendance. It doesn't have anything to do with attendance. It has to do with membership. So the time that a student is enrolled with us is how ADM is calculated.
And what is the projected ADM for fiscal year 2026, please?
And so you'll see that also on the budget form. So if you download a copy of the budget that is on there, you get ADM projections on the data entry page. And so it is a projection. The unweighted ADM is projected on the data entry page of 14,000 students.
And what was it for fiscal year 2025?
Again, that piece of information is also on this page because you give the prior 2 years worth of ADM, and the difference being that when you're looking at the prior years, it's not a projection, it's actuals. And so if you go again to the data entry page, you'll see the numbers that were in there. I'm going to try to flip there so I can read them.
Thank you.
You can also see it on the summary page. And it is 13,822.6582. The font's not that great, but I'm pretty sure I'm reading that right.
Okay, and so please help me understand, what was the difference, plus or minus, between fiscal year 2025 and fiscal year 2026?
So the difference between the number 14,000 and the number 13,822 would be roughly 178 students.
Now, could you please share what is the weighted ADM for fiscal year 2026?
So again, that's also on the data entry page, where you'll see calculations, and you can see them a little bit more clearly on the 8455 page of the budget. So let me flip there. project the budget. If we project the budget, I can show you each cell for each of the questions they're answering, asking, like, they're all in there. I can point to where they're at. So if we can get the Excel file in its entirety projected up on the screen. It's on the page, it says it. Were you able to print a copy of the budget? I could walk over and show you what your printed copy where
I don't have a printed copy. And as you just mentioned earlier, it's a poor copy, so you can't really read it. But as we're waiting for that information to come up, I'll also be asking, I asked for fiscal year 2026. And I'd like to see also fiscal year 2025, please, if you would.
So the questions do have to be germane to the topic, and the topic for tonight is the FY26 budget. So if you need help navigating this budget or understanding numbers within this budget, then that's what we're able to speak to. But it's not to go back and do like a recap of fiscal years. It's to address the numbers that are contained here in this file and what these numbers mean.
So just to be clear and to be on the record, you don't want us to be able to compare and contrast fiscal year 2025 with fiscal year 2026?
No, so you can do that comparison with the unweighted count, and what I'm telling you is I don't want to break the law. So the law says I can only speak to germane to the topic, and germane to the topic is this file before you. Any number that is contained on this file I can speak to, but if you start asking what was the ADM in 1987, I can't answer that question. That's not germane to the budget.
And just so that I can understand this, you're saying right now that you don't want to break the law and you want to be within the confines of the law. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
I tried to state
Thank you.
it.
Thank you. Okay.
So if we go to the page, it says 8455-1. Is this the PDF version or the Excel version? Yeah. If you do the Excel version, it'll be easier to navigate through. All right, let me just email it over to you, Delphino. If you can bring up the Excel file, it's easier to navigate on the Excel file than the PDF, because the Excel file has all the tab names on it.
While we're waiting for that information, I can certainly move on to another question, if that's okay with you.
Yes.
Please, what is the base support level for fiscal year 2026?
Again, also contained on the budget on the data entry page where it says base support level. So let me pull it up. There it is. All right, let's go first to the tab that says BSA 55. You see it on the bottom, BSA 55? The tab on the bottom, looking on the worksheet, BSA 55. Or maybe if I could just hit the mouse. Okay, so right here on the BSA 55 tab, you can see the calculation of the weighted ADM. So first you start off with your unweighted ADM, so you see the 14,000. That is weighted by a group A weight, so that's at 1.268. That gets you to 17,700. After that, you're going to add an additional weighted ADM for all your students with additional needs, so that could be special education needs, it could be ELL, kindergarten through third grade doesn't apply to us, but there's those other additional types of weights. There's a free reduced poverty limit weight. So there's all these other different weights. When you scroll down just a little bit more, just on the page. At the bottom, you're gonna, and we lost it. So total weighted ADM, when you put those groups together, is 20,011,914446 is the total weighted ADM. On the data entry tab, you'll have the base level. So the base level per student at 5,113.26 is the base level per student. If you're asking about the total base support level, that is also on that BSA tab. And so on that BSA tab, after and base support level adjustments, we have a base support level of $102,368,621.66.
And I'm sorry, did you ever cover what's the base support level for fiscal year 2026, please?
Yes, that is fiscal year 2026 base support level.
All right. And I don't know if you, okay, all right. And why is this base support level important?
Because the funding is how we pay for everything that we do.
Okay. And finally, I do have one question, Superintendent Gallegos. So you chose to answer the questions. Are the board members not versed on this? Do they possess the same knowledge that you do? Why are they unable to answer the questions when they're board members and they're voting on this?
Yes, so I have been in school finance for over 20 years, going back to my time at Arizona Department of Education. I wouldn't expect that any board member in this state is as well versed in school finance as I am.
And I understand, I can respect that. The only thing is that we have 5 other members, and no other member was given the opportunity to address these questions. So I'm just wondering if our board members are voting willy-nilly here ins and outs, but I would expect any board member present to be able to answer these questions.
So a board member, in order to speak for the district, needs to be given that authority by a majority of the board. Superintendent, the chief financial officer, are responsible for responding to budget questions. So you're not going to go to a district and see a random board member responding to questions on the call for the public hearing. That'll be something that's done by either the chief financial officer or the superintendent. That being said, each question that you have asked, yes, I believe we have several board members that could have filled in those particular questions. We have board members who have attended multiple school finance trainings, and none of those questions were of a complexity where they wouldn't know where to find that number on the budget forms.
Well, it's just a little concerning because tonight, thus far, it's early, but I've only heard from you, and you haven't given an opportunity to the other board members to respond to our questions today. But thank you so very much.
Our next public comment will be Kim Owens.
Good evening. ARS 15905 D says, at the time and place fixed in the notice, the governing board shall hold the public hearing and present the proposed budget to the persons attending the hearing. On the request of any person, the governing board shall explain the budget. It doesn't say, or their representative, it says the governing board. The public has a right to question the people that were elected to represent them, to explain the items in the budget, and statute even authorizes that. So I'm going to ask my questions of either President Sun or Vice President Chapman. And the first question is, how is the transportation revenue control limit figured and why is it important?
Yes, and again, I can
According
answer.
to statute, the school board should be able to explain the budget. I'm asking a school board member to please, the most senior school board member, and Mr. Chapman to please explain the transportation revenue control limit and why it's important. Can you do that?
We have former board members who didn't know that there's a proposed budget and then a 10-day notice before you
Mr.
vote.
Kayas, I'm going to ask you to stick to the subject. As you said before, what's germane to tonight is, can this school board explain the proposed budget?
So the statute requires that we provide an explanation. It doesn't
It says
say
the
that
school board.
person-
It does say
It
the
does
school
not say
board.
that the
It
person
says
at
the
the
school
podium-
board shall explain. Any member, I'll accept an explanation from any member. They're going to vote on this. You presented it. You already given your input. It's up to them to look at it to see if it's adequate, if the calculations have been done correctly, or to ask questions and be the advocate for the taxpayer, not take it as it's explained. They should understand these things. I'm asking, according to statute, Title 15, for a board member to explain the budget. Any board member will do. And I'll start with, how is the transportation revenue control limit figured? Or, why is it important? No one can answer that? What about the total revenue control limit? What is it for FY26? You've looked at the budget, you have it before the, what is the revenue control limit for FY26? You don't know, or you refuse to answer? The statute said you should respond to the public. What is the total expenditure limit for FY26? Board member, any board member, do you know what the total expenditure limit for FY26 is?
The statute is in place, so the public can receive answers on their inquiries to the budget.
I read you the statute specifically. It says the board shall explain.
It is not in place, so you can do school finance trivia with board members.
That's not what I'm doing. I'm asking them to show their ability to understand what's before them and cast a vote that is informed. I'm not playing trivia. They can look these up. It's easy to do. All right, no one will answer that question. How about this? And in looking at past budgets, it is germane to tonight's discussion because the public has the right to protest. If the public doesn't have the data, they can't form a protest. They do have the right to ask for comparisons to past budgets, and that is germane. In looking at FY 25 and 26, was any tuition paid for in whole or part for any current school board member for any year? And Mr. Kayes, you may answer that question.
Well, thank you for your permission.
You're welcome.
In FY 26, the year that we are into now by about 6-7 days, no.
And in the budget that's before you tonight, is there a line item, or in the past, has this school district ever paid for tuition in whole or part for any board member?
Again, not germane to this.
It is germane because we're looking at the budget. We need to know where the money's going. That's what a budget's about. It is germane. You don't get to hide behind those words.
You get to have questions on this.
And you're obligated to answer. And looking at FY 26, is there anything in there, or do you plan on using budget dollars to pay for tuition for board members?
Again, there is not a line item dedicated towards paying tuition for board members.
But when you calculated the number, you put in what you were using for the calculation. Certainly you had a formula. You know what your estimated expenses were. You didn't just pick a number. In figuring those calculated expenses, did you include tuition for board members?
There is a professional development that includes conferences, other things that board members attend. They attend trainings with ASBA. There is a professional development line. There is not a specific line item that says, go use this for tuition, nor is there a planned expenditure for tuition in the FY 26 budget for board members.
So in the professional development calculation, was tuition included in that?
No, there's not a tuition line for board members.
And I would remind you that if you have received tuition and you vote on the budget, or you intend to use tuition and you vote on the budget, that's a conflict of interest. Thank you.
So I would just like to review a statute. It's under ARS 15-321, the powers and duties of the governing board, specifically regarding to the budget. The governing board is required to prepare, publish notice, and hold a public hearing on proposed budget. We are not required, or are we the sole responsibility to answer all budget questions. We are allowed to direct them to our expertise. So you can look that up with your own statute under ARS 15-321.
Were you replying to me, President Sun? Because if you look at 15905D, you will find where you are obligated to answer the public's questions. Thank you.
Under ARS 15-321 also states that we are not the sole responsibility in answering for the budget.
I'll read this to you one more time. At the time and place fixed in the notice, which would be now, the governing board shall hold the public hearing in the proposed budget to present the proposed budget to the persons attending the hearing. On request of any person, the governing board shall explain the budget, and any resident or taxpayer of the district may protest the inclusion of the item. In other words, you tell the public, and then the public has the right to protest. It doesn't say, or their designee. It says the governing board. The public should have the little bit of trust that you know what these items are, which is why I asked those questions. They're very important questions, and no one can answer them, or else you refuse, which means you don't care if the public understands your ability to vote on their behalf. You chose to remain silent. You can look up other statutes. There are a lot of statutes. This one is specific to the public hearing. This one is specific to what the governing board obligations are. You're choosing to evade that. And we can go on all night if you want. This is the statute. You don't get to work around it. You have to follow the law. And I realize that's hard to do for some people, just like the open meeting law. But you have to follow it. I'll let the other people, you want to have a conversation.
You sat down and you came out and...
You addressed what I said.
I was not addressing you. I was not addressing to the public. And as a board president, I do reserve that right. So if you could sit back down, I would be...
I'm happy to. We'll move on to the next person and let's hope you answer their question.
Proceed with the law is under 15.321. It does not state the board alone must explain budget details without staff support. I understand the original statutes, and that is the broad general of it. And to further drilling down on the statute based on legal ramifications, these are the facts. Now, we are not prepared to address one board member to discuss this topic. So we will continue to direct this to our area of expertise, who is our CFO and superintendent. Just like we will not be addressing a lot of subject matters that are expertise among the cabinet members. We could, but you won't do justice for the public. To proceed to our next speaker, Dave Briggs.
Thank you for the opportunity to ask these questions. A lot of us don't know how a budget is built. A lot of us would like to know that process, how you build that budget to come to all the things that you have up there. For instance, what is it meant by M&O? What does that mean? I'll turn that to Superintendent Guys.
Yes, Dr. Briggs, M&O stands for Maintenance and Operation.
And what is that M&O been used for?
M&O is primarily used for salaries, benefits, supplies, things of that nature that are more consumable and don't have long duration.
So it's different than capital outlay. What's capital outlay then?
Yes, Dr. Briggs, capital outlay is used for your larger items. You can have items such as furniture, technology, and equipment. Capital outlay, back at the time when your work for school districts was split between soft capital and unrestricted capital, and the furniture, technology, and equipment would have been considered a soft capital cost, whereas buildings, building improvements, things of that nature are more of the hard capital, the long-lasting items.
So then what is unrestricted capital? What does that mean? How can you use unrestricted capital?
You can use unrestricted capital on any capital item.
Can you move unrestricted capital into M&O?
So, district additional assistance, which is the primary funding source for unrestricted capital, can be allocated to either maintenance and operations or unrestricted capital, and to whatever degree the district chooses to allocate out to those two different areas.
So I can move that into M&O and use it for M&O expenses.
That is correct.
What's the classroom site fund?
Classroom site fund started in the year 2000. It was a ballot initiative originally under Proposition 301. Classroom site fund, when it was originally enacted, was limited to teacher salaries, performance pay, base salary, things of that nature. In 2020, it expired. It became a legislative renewed item. They opened it up, they expanded it so it could be used for other support staff personnel. safe egress or ingress into a building.
Can you move bond money around to other than specifically what voters voted for?
In terms of move around, bond funds aren't transferred to other funds, if that's what you're stating with move around. Aside from that, if you mean, can you spend bond funds on items that were not specified in the pamphlet? For instance, if your pamphlet did not specify that you would acquire buses or other transportation units, no, you cannot spend it then on those items if it wasn't covered in the pamphlet under some topic.
Surplus M&O and surplus capital funds can be used for what?
They roll over to the subsequent fiscal year.
So, if I have surplus funds that sit out there and I have carryover funds are different, or carried forward funds are different than surplus? This year's budget, I noticed you got an item that's called carried forward. First time I've seen it. Is that different than surplus?
So one change that was specific to this year's forms, and there was no background provided by the legislature when they directed staff at the Auditor General's office to do this. It was just something new we got in the forms. Is you had these singular line items now where they want you to project what you think your carry forward is going to be. So that is a new thing where they're asking you to project what you think your carry forward will be at the end of the fiscal year. And that is new to this year's forms.
So I'm trying to wrap my head around some of this because I don't have the information knowledge that you have, obviously. So a surplus fund sits outside. Can I move that into this year's budget? Surplus.
Yeah, so it's not anything sitting outside. Their use of that new line item is simply to say, what do you think you're going to have at the end of the year? Previously, because the law does require, and has historically required, that you have to budget for every dollar up to your budget limit. Otherwise, you lose that funding. And let's say if you're entitled, if a district is entitled to $100 million, right, that is their budget limit, and they decide that they're only going to budget for $80 million. That $20 million that they're saying we don't want it, we don't need it, is then reduced off the tax rate, and the district never gets those dollars back. So you have to budget for every dollar up to the limit. But then you've had in numerous districts and also downtown the question of, well, why didn't they spend the full $100 million? They never intended to spend the full $100 million. You have to budget for the full $100 million, otherwise you lose money. So your budget always reflects your full budget limit so you don't lose money. And so now they want to know, well, what is the number that you actually think you're going to spend this year? And they've asked for that to be parsed out into a separate number. So the term surplus is not a real school finance term. That is something that this is being thrown on us on these forms now, where they're asking, like, what is your, and you can see it on page 1, you see it on multiple things where it says, maintain for spending after fiscal year 2026, budgeted carry forward. So it doesn't say the term surplus. This is what your budgeted carry forward is, the new term being used with this year's forms.
Okay, so that carry forward, is that from last year moving into this budget? Or is that what you project you're going to carry forward into the 26 budget?
Yes, carry forward into next year. So let's say if you carry forward $40 million from the previous year, you're getting $100 million of new revenue this year. Now you have $140 million available to spend. And let's say you're thinking you're going to spend $110 million. That means you're going to have $30 million left at the end of the year that you're going to carry forward into the next year. So that is the new budgeted carry forward term.
Got it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
No more than what I stood here with this item?
So I had 3 public comment requests regarding the budget. And we have several other public last year. But I was told that some of you guys didn't know which form to fill out. So if you know that you filled out a white form and you would like to come up and speak and ask questions about the budget, please so now, but please let us know your name so that we know that you were one of the ones that filled out a form. So if you filled out the wrong form, it's okay. You still have an opportunity now to come up and speak on the budget or comment questions. But you have to be on this list as well. Okay, then we can now move to call to order to a regular meeting as of 3:45. And roll call, please.
Dr. Luna Heda. Mr. Delgado. Mr. Ortega Romero. Mr. Chapman. And Ms. Sun.
And now we will go to the approval of the regular agenda. It is recommended that the governing board approve the regular meeting agenda. Can I have a motion? Second. Roll call, please.
Dr. Luna Heda. Mr. Del Palacio.
Yes.
Mr. Ortega Romero. Mr. Chapman. And Ms. Sun.
Yes. And now to the summary of the current events, Superintendent Guys.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board. Get the slides rolling. No, not that one. Keep going. There we go. All right, Mr. Philip Mulheron, our law and public safety instructor at La Jolla High School, attended the National Skills USA Conference from June 23rd through June 27th, alongside students Marielle Rascon and Zaira Soto. These exceptional students were recognized at the Leadership Conference and received the Outstanding Model of Excellence Personal Skills Award. So congratulations out to those students. And we have some exciting news regarding our Health Occupation Students of America, or HOSA. The following HOSA advisors, Ms. Ricardo Avalos, Mrs. Shirley Faison Lee, and Mr. Eric Lehman, and Mrs. Vanessa Rocio, recently attended the HOSA National Conference in Nashville, Tennessee. Their students participated as national qualifiers in several HOSA events, from medical assisting and sports medicine programs. We're especially proud to share that one of Mrs. Faison Lee's students, Kylie Barr, placed in the top 10 for the healthcare issues exam, an incredible accomplishment. So congratulations to those students as well. We are also thrilled to share some additional exciting news that Kylie, Alicia Del Muto Gonzalez, and Mark Mitchell demonstrated mastery on the healthcare issues exam at the 49th HOSA International Leadership Conference. The Healthcare Issues Exam is a prestigious assessment that evaluates students' knowledge and understanding of critical healthcare topics. TUHSD is extremely proud of this group for representing our school district so well at the national level. Congratulations again out to all of our HOSA students. And on Thursday, June 26th, the district held its summer graduation ceremony for the class of 2025, so congratulations to all of the students who walked and received their diplomas. We are all proud and excited to see what the future holds for each and every one of you. And it was a great event. Got to be there. A lot of energy in that crowd. And finally, our district public relations department has produced a new promo video for the 25-26 school year that has been uploaded to the district banner on our website and on our YouTube channel. Let's take a look at the video now and let us know what you think. So go ahead and roll that video.
Excellence in academics.
Excellence in athletics.
Excellence in college and career readiness.
Excellence in extracurriculars.
Excellence in traditions.
Excellence in services. Excellence in visual performing arts.
Excellence in every endeavor.
All right, you have to take my word for it that it plays a lot better. Just do it on your laptop or cell phone. Looked like we had a double playing there. But congratulations out to our PR team putting that together and really highlighting our motto, excellence in every endeavor. And that is just some of the good news since our last couple board meeting.
All right, thank you again, Superintendent Guys. And again, a shout out to the PR team led by Joseph Ortiz. And this is just one of many great jobs that they've been working on. And I can't wait to see their next project. And now to the board members update. Member Luna, Member Del Blasio, Member Ortega Romero, Member Chapman. So I just want to give an update about the community consensus. I received several emails and visits, applauding our amazing work moving forward. We were discussing our bonds and overrides that is coming up, and how much they support all the great work that we have done. And of course, that great work is passed on to our staffs and teachers that are there on the front line. And I know that in our future updates and from our superintendent, that we are pushing for additional campuses to become an A campus. And what that really means for our community is, value in property values. And we all know that when anyone moves into our community, the very first thing they look at is the letter grade of our schools. Regardless if they have children or not, either they are investing or planning their retirement, they want the maximum bucks, that will eventually end up in their, pockets. And their biggest asset, of course, besides the children, but it is their home value. And this is how we work together as a community. I, for one, always promote for community wealth. And that will look in many different ways, but certainly this is one of them. So again, I just want you guys to know that there are a tremendous amount of support, dedication, and admiration for all of your hard work. So I just want to say thank you. And now we are at agenda letter D, public participation. Before we have our first guest to the podium, I just like to repeat our verbatim on public participation. All regular and special meetings of the board shall be open to the public. The board invites the viewpoints of citizens throughout the district and considers the responsible presentation of these viewpoints vital to the efficient operation of the district. The board also recognizes its responsibility for the proper governance of the schools and therefore the need to conduct its business in an orderly and efficient manner. Any individual desiring to address the board shall complete a form request to address the board and give this form to the governing board executive assistant, Lupita Goodman, prior to the start of the board meeting. No one may approach the dais to speak with board members, the superintendent, or the administrative assistant without the board president's permission, whether before, during, after, or intermittently in the meeting. Anyone wishing to speak with those on the dais must first obtain approval from the board president. This is a time for the public to comment. Governing board members are not permitted to discuss or take legal action on matters raised during the open call to the public unless the matters are properly noticed for discussion and legal action. However, the law permits governing board members to do the following at the conclusion of the open call to the public. A, respond to criticism made by those who have addressed the governing board. B, ask staff to review a matter. Or C, ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. In order to facilitate accomplishing the business of the district in a timely manner, a time limit of 3 minutes will be imposed for each individual or group addressing the board. When you approach the podium, please state your name and for the record. Dave Briggs, come on down.
Members of the board, Superintendent Cognia, I have a concern that I'd like to share with you. I completed an audit of the district in the fall of 2023, which included reviewing resources, teacher and administrator interviews. There was no governing board adopted curriculum, there were only adopted resources. And it was mandated that the district use what was called alternative curriculum. There was no teacher involvement in the development of curriculum, which is a direct violation of board policy and board regulations, which call for participation of staff. Representative staff's or department's concerns should be appointed to committee for study, creation, and revision of any particular guide. Curriculum guides were designed by staff members and teachers who are to use them. I've submitted a public records request for which the governing board adopted curriculum in all English, all math, all science, and all history courses. I've asked for when did that occur? I've yet to receive a reply. TUHSD adopted resources under the textbook adoption process in ELD English, math, science in March of 2023, as well as AP resources for history courses. In the spring of 2022, TUHSD adopted resources under the textbook adoption process for all English courses using HMH. The administration of Tolleson Union High School District continues to argue that you have a curriculum. You have a set of resources, and you were made aware of it in October of 2023. And the district uploaded one person wrote for math, one for English, one for science, one for history, and they cut and pasted from the adopted resources to WestEd because WestEd was going to conduct a review. The district also informed the Cognia Accreditation process of their curriculum. Again, you have no governing board adopted curriculum. You only have governing adopted resources. The usual process involves teams of teachers working together with policy to develop a curriculum to complete the scope and sequence, pacing guides, a curriculum map based upon what students need to know, understand, and be able to do at the end of the course, the unit, and the lesson. This curriculum then is aligned to standards. The curriculum is presented to the governing board for approval. The next step is to select the most appropriate textbook and resources which most closely align with the governing board adopted curriculum. This has not been the case. The resources were adopted according to the board policy on adoption of textbook and resources. On March 28, 23, this is the action that was taking place in that board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave, for your comment. Our next speaker,
Item B says that I'd like to ask staff to review this matter, and I'm requesting that this matter be reviewed and the board meeting date be provided to the where we adopted said curriculum.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. I'm sorry, what was that again? Do we get that down?
Yes, in fact, you won't have to wait long. We're going through our Cognia Accreditation presentation today. So as a part of that presentation, our Executive Director of OLAS will address these concerns over our curriculum.
Future, process. We usually allow the public speak first, and then we can make a request afterwards. Just keep that in mind. If you read and heard the verbatim that we just mentioned, we don't make the comment until afterwards. It's the conduct of the meetings, and if we want to change this around, we could, but for the time being, we can all hold our requests and comments until the public has spoken. Next speaker will be Melissa. Richard.
President Sun, Vice President Chapman, members of the board, Superintendent TUHSD, my name is Melissa Ermstein, and I proudly serve as the president of the Tolleson Union Education Association, representing the interests of classified and certified staff across the district. There is a war on public education, not only in Arizona, but across our country. You see, education is inherently political. We not only give students the knowledge and tools to forge their path in society, we grant hope for the future. Hope is dangerous. When the working class has hope, the owning class gets nervous. This war on public education did not start with the onset of vouchers, nor did it begin just like No Child Left Behind. The vision for diverse, equitable, and inclusive public schools has been worth fighting for since public schools were first established in this country. That is how long this war has been waged, and now we have powerful, well-funded factions taking action to chip away at that vision. This war has now become local, and we are feeling the direct effects on Tolleson Union. I've seen this story play out in districts across the valley and throughout our country. It starts in the guise of concerned parents making somewhat reasonable arguments. Over time, hoaxes and lies are added, bashing direct attack against teachers, staff, and students. This insidious, invasive approach ends with the formation of groups like Purple for Parents, Moms for Liberty, and now Citizens for School Accountability. This war on public education is fought not for money, though that is why corporations have chosen their sides, but for power. Controlling the decisions that impact students means controlling the future of the community. I fight this war for one side, and one side only, that of our members. We fight to create positive change in the district for our students, and make no mistake, if you fight against us, you are fighting against students. Fighting against the maintenance and operations override means fighting against funding for staff and student programs. If this measure is not passed, the district will be forced to make cuts, and this will negatively impact TUHSD students. Fighting against the capital needs override, capital needs bond means fighting against the repairs, building improvements, and equipment needed to give students the learning environments they deserve. You cannot fight against these measures and declare yourself to be in support of staff and students. Fighting against these measures puts you firmly in the camp of those fighting for the destruction of public education and the subjugation of the working class. It is a made to uncomfortable good. Growth does not happen in comfort. If you wish to join our fight for fully funded, fully staffed, and fully resourced public schools, I welcome you. Our students deserve all of that and more. Above all else, they deserve adults who will fight for their future. Board members, I ask you to join us in our fight. Do not be swayed by that vision of power, whether it be from corporate entities or local elected officials. Stand with the hundreds of members of the Tolleson Union Education Association and help us give our students this hope for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa, for your comment. Our next public comment will come from Rakia Young.
Good afternoon, President Sun, members of the board, and Superintendent Cognia. I'm speaking today not just as a community member, but as someone who works in the district every single day. I want to be clear, I do not support the Group of 30. From where I stand inside the schools, I can see that we are moving in the right direction. Our academic performance is improving. Our staff is being compensated fairly, and that matters. It matters a lot. It keeps good people here. We're able to offer students free meals throughout the day. We've removed class fees that burden families, and we're working in buildings that are equipped with up-to-date technology, which is very important for our students and our staff. Most importantly, I see students leaving our schools being better prepared for this world. That's the goal. The group of 30 seems to be made up largely of current and former politicians. There are very few people working in or sending their children to this district. And their behavior during meetings, yelling, using profanity, doesn't reflect the values we try to teach our students. I appreciate your leadership and your resilience in the face of distractions. Please continue to focus on what matters most, which is the students and the staff who are here every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Rukia, for your comment. Next will be Samantha. Please. Did I say your last name correctly?
No, it's Ness.
I'm sorry, say that again? Ness. Okay. You look like a man. My apologies.
So, board members, I just want to say thank you for the chance to take a moment to speak with you. I've had the great pleasure of representing Tolleson Union High School District, and specifically Copper Canyon, in numerous different professional trainings for myself and also as students in states such as Texas, Arizona, Washington, D.C., Michigan, Minnesota, Hawaii, Indianapolis, and as recently as last week in France. Every time I go to one of these trainings and I talk about what our schools are doing and how much my admin supports me, I get the question of, where's your application? How do I apply? I want to be in your district. I tell them that how my boss tells me he trusts that I'm going to do what's best for kids in a time when many administrations don't even let their teachers have an opinion or a chance to speak with the administration itself. Our district is standing out as a leader in regards to our education, our teaching. It would help if our school board fought less, because I go to meetings and these conferences and they say, what's happening in your school board? But then they say, but your classrooms are showing a difference. What's going on with your test scores? What's going on with the ACT? How are you guys cracking? How are you different? I'm now getting offers from other schools, private and public alike, saying, would you come run our other schools? Will you come with our kids? Will you take our students to this? I worked with Arizona Cardinals and sending students to Washington, D.C. We sent 43 this summer. We're one of their top districts that they love to work with. But because the governing board fighting, they almost didn't work with the district this year. But they sent Copper Canyon the email right away and said, you have 11 spots. So I'm proud to stand as a Copper Canyon employee and proud of what our school and our district is doing. There are some internal issues that need to be addressed, but our school is a magnet. There are people who want to come work here. There are people who, before they even hear a salary, say, I want to be a part of that. You have admin that supports you. You have governing boards that put tuition in place so how many teachers can actually go and advance their learning. I want to be a part of that. People aren't seeing the negatives because they're seeing teachers like myself. They're seeing teachers like the one sitting behind me, representing the district to the right in a manner that they want to be a part of this as a movement. They realize that something special is going on here, and they need to be a part of it. They're willing to leave jobs. They're willing to move states. In France, for example, they're willing to move countries to be a part of this. And it's by the representatives like myself and the people sitting behind me, speaking positively about our campuses, our classrooms, our students, hearing the issues that other schools have. I feel very sheltered in our district, even though the kids are very similar, because we expect more out of them, and because we expect more, they're giving us that. Thank you.
Thank you, Samantha, for your comment. And now it's next will be Tiffany Lemieux. Is it Lemieux?
Yes, you said it perfect. President Sun, members of the board, and President Superintendent Calles, thank you for the opportunity for me to speak tonight. As a district staff member, I want to share my views from the inside of the schools. I do not support the group of 30. From my perspective, the district has made real meaningful progress. Our letter grades are going up, teachers and support staff are being compensated more fairly, students have access to free meals all day, and families aren't asked to pay for fees like they used to. Our buildings are being modernized, and we're using technology that helps our students learn and prepare for life beyond schools. More importantly, I see our students thriving. That's what matters. The group of 30 doesn't include many people who are actively a part of our district. Most are political figures, not the educators or parents who are a part of our daily work. We're in the trenches. Their disruptive behavior during meetings doesn't help to move anything forward. It only adds to the tension. I appreciate that this board continues to focus on long-term improvements, and I see where we are going. And I encourage you to keep doing what is best for our students and staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany. And now we'll go to Hillary McCut. Did I say your last name right?
No, McKillop.
McKillop, my apologies.
Good afternoon, Superintendent and Governing Board. My name is Hillary McKillop. I am here to address two concerns. First, I'd like to know what will the district and schools do if ICE shows up on campus. I think the
which is our student-led garden club and sustainability program. If you've been to our campus, you've probably seen our garden beds in the back of the school, which I was there the other day, and is currently under construction, and so I'm still trying to figure out where our new gardens are going to be. But I'm excited to continue that work. Like many educators, I've been anxious about the federal government's ongoing attacks on public education, especially with the recent withholding of funds meant for our students. My first thoughts, are we still going to be able to offer this program? Will our students still be able to eat at no additional cost to them? Will they still have late buses to get them home safely? Will I have supplies for my garden, crafts for Thursday craft day for students to unwind, or ACT prep materials to prepare them for the tests? At UH, this program is not just appreciated, it is essential. Our coordinator has made it the backbone of our school culture. Every day, students stay for academic support, enrichment, and community building. This grant helps us offer more than we could ever do alone. So again, when I heard about the withholding of federal funds, I panicked. When I read of other districts axing similar programs, I became sad. I promised myself I'd still do what I could to open up my space for my students, even if we had to scale things back. So when I read Superintendent Kayes' email yesterday, I was relieved that he and the board are committed to protecting this program, thanks to reserves, good stewardship, and most importantly, our supportive community. But this situation made something very clear to me. Help is not coming from the federal government or the state for that matter. That's why I'm honestly dumbfounded that some here, which is a small group of people who claim to support students, are actively trying to block the bond override. Efforts to punish leadership do not hurt you. It's not going to hurt the superintendent. It's not going to hurt the board president. It is going to hurt our students. If we want to keep offering programs like this long term, we need our community to keep showing up. I am thankful for most of you up here that you voted to move forward with the bond and override. Us teachers do not take this funding for granted, believe me. I wish state and federal leaders would fully fund our future, but that is not our reality. To those, including some teachers, unfortunately, who are supporting this group, please talk to colleagues who have worked in districts that do not have a community that supports them. I come from one, and there is a reason we are here. There is a real difference in what our students are able to accomplish. Thank you for not choosing hate and for allowing our students to thrive.
Thank you, Carol, for your comment. And now to Sydney Wright.
Good afternoon, President Sun, Vice President Chapman, members of the board, Superintendent Kayes, and Goodman. My name is Sydney Wright, and I am a proud teacher in this district. It's no secret that educators wear many hats. One of those hats is that of a mediator. It's my job to ensure that in my classroom, my students respond appropriately when they disagree with others. This means showing respect when disagreeing, and sometimes it might just mean keeping your mouth shut altogether. To actually maintain this norm of mutual respect, it might also mean speaking up when you see other people engaging in acts of disrespect. Our students watch and mimic those who lead them. We have federal leaders who already make it clear that respect and civility are not the priority. Now we have district leaders who spend meetings interrupting each other and fighting. I don't know how I'm supposed to establish a norm of mutual respect within my classroom when students can easily see others in positions of power throwing civility out the window. No two people have to agree on any given issue, and that's the beauty of diverse thought. But when you're representing the highest level of leadership within our district, there is a responsibility to lead by example and show our students how to engage in respectful disagreement. Simply put, I'm sick of watching the unnecessary fighting. I'm sick of explaining to my students that no, this is not normal because yes, our kids are watching. Let's pick our battles here. We don't need to fight over things like at what point a board member can make a response to a public comment. In today's climate, with public schools under attack, the list of battles that are actually worth picking is pretty vast. We don't have time to hold on to vendettas and attack each other from across the dais. So I'm begging you and expecting you to focus on our students and maintain civility and decorum while you do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Sydney, for your comment. And now to Liz Singh. Liz Science.
President Sun, members of the board, and Superintendent TUHSD, thank you for this opportunity to speak with these signs. Being a part of the community for 50 years, I wanted to express that I do not agree or align with the Our district is heading in the right direction. There's been, and this has been reflective in our rising letter grades in the Department of Education. Our ability to properly compensate staff, our ability to provide breakfast, lunch, and dinner for our students, especially in my community. I was one of those as a kid here in Tolleson. Our ability to eliminate class fees for our students and parents, our ability to provide quality facilities with the latest technology of our students, and most important, by the increased amount of success that we see with our children when they graduate from our district. Our group of 30 consists mostly of current and former politicians, and there are very little here in the community, if any, parents and staff members in the district. I do not agree with their use of profanity in our board meetings, nor their disruptions or shouting. I commend you for staying the course despite the distractions, and I urge you to continue to do so. You're heading in the right direction. Keep up the good work. I really appreciate you. I apologize for having to leave early, but me and some of the coaches that are present, we've got to go serve the community. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies, for your comment, and thank you for your support. And now to our last guest will be Michael Tom.
My name is Michael Connor. Thank you, Madam Board President, Mr. Tice. I made a personal decision that I am no longer going to sit idle by and watch this group of 30 trash our district employees. I've decided that anywhere they stand up, I will stand up and fact check them right to their faces. I had the unfortunate experience of working on our curriculum with the group of teachers at the exact same day that David Briggs lied in front of the Joint Legislative Audit Committee and said we had no curriculum. I looked at my curriculum coordinator and said, what am I doing here? If we don't have the thing we are working on right now, we've had it for years, it has never gone away, it has only improved, it has been made by groups of teachers every single year for as long as I can possibly remember. I am so tired of that lie being spread by this, I really stated Briggs. I do want to talk about the funding. They seem to complain about the way we're using some of our funding. Well, one thing I've come to notice over the years of knowing Mr. Tice now for almost a decade is he is very forward thinking. He has the ability to see things come before it actually happens. Sometimes I've asked him, do you have a crystal ball? And it turns out that he might have one. He and the board decided we were going to do a couple of things. Number one, help out the Isaac School District with that loan, which means we get more money back. And then most recently, approved a building for low-income housing right behind our district office. That's going to provide additional revenue. Fast forward just a couple of months to June, and the state of Arizona cut schools $200 million out of the budget, the last of the budget, 60%. Well, when they cut 40%, we're 60. That's a benefit. We have now a revenue stream though to be able to backfill that, so we don't have to cut it. Fast forward another month in July, the state or the federal government cut Arizona schools again, $118 million. I'm the one who's sure and glad that we have a forward-thinking board and superintendent that is willing to take a risk and put it out there and say, look, we can do this, we can make our money, we can do things that are going to help our community and our students succeed. We have now seen several, at least 2 A schools in our district. We're going to have at least a third coming up, and I imagine shortly after that we'll have a whole bunch more. I want to address the former board member that comes up here. Now, I've been here long enough to remember when she was a board member. She claimed in front of the jail, the Joint Legislative Audit Committee, that we had CRTs and we had curriculum. Well, I'm here to tell you that curriculum consisted of a curriculum map, and that was basically it. We had an approved textbook that at the time was almost 12 years old. I teach government. That book barely mentioned 9/11 happened. That was it. We had CRTs, which stands for criteria reference testing. They're supposed to be based on some criteria. I never found out what that was in the years we used them. It was just a trivia test. I also remember that on the last day of school, they'd ask us to stand up. Who's not coming back next year? And 40% of our staff would stand up. We don't have that anymore. I don't want to go back to whatever that time was. So I'll deeply appreciative of the work this board has done. It supports our staff, it supports our teachers, it supports our community at large. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, and now that concludes the public participation section. And if any fellow board members would like to make any comments on any public comment, please do so now. So I'd just like to make a comment. I believe regarding the ICE and the suggestions, we have things in place for that. Rest assured, that's been in place as of February. Our COO have outlined these marching orders should any patrol agencies or ICE was to approach any of our campuses. They know every step is necessary. All those that are involved are aware of those marching orders. Just a simple example is that the only warrant that we are forced to comply with is a judicial warrant. Anything outside that, we do not have to comply, and they cannot do mass raids. It has to be an individual. So there are a list of steps, but if you want more details, you can request that, and we can give that to you. With all parties involved and on the front line of every campuses are prepared. And now to the, let's see. Information discussion items, Cognia Accreditation, Superintendent.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, I'd like to invite up our Executive Director of OLAS, Dr. Rosala Luminous Quatley, and her team to present on the Cognia Accreditation.
Good afternoon, President Sun, Vice President Chapman, board members, and Superintendent Carias. Today, we're going to present on our Cognia Accreditation review. And we are delighted to share that the Tolleson Union High School District has been accredited by Cognia Global Commission on June 26, 2025. Cognia is a highly regarded accreditation that is recognized throughout the world. So it was an extensive process where Cognia reviewed several data points. They reviewed our assessments, graduation data, surveys, our curriculum, and also conducted interviews. This process is conducted every 6 years, and we're happy to renew our accreditation to continue to provide that high-quality instruction for all our students. So we'll begin our presentation by understanding accreditation, share our committee members, then we'll review the performance standards evaluation results. We'll discuss the evaluation of institution analysis, and then we'll take a closer look at the performance standards evaluation process. We'll end the presentation by reviewing the key recommendations and also celebrations. What is accreditation? Accreditation is a process that evaluates educational institutions for quality assurance, ensuring they meet established standards. So basically, it checks that schools meet those quality standards and it helps them improve. It also creates trust within the organization and community. It holds schools accountable. So the process ensures that the schools are meeting those high quality standards for education. The schools are regularly evaluated to ensure that they are continuously improving and providing that best education for our students. As mentioned, the process was extensive, and we had several team members contribute in multiple ways. Our leadership committee was made up of Dr. Bias, Ms. Moss, Ms. Davey, and our principals. Cognia Accreditation also included focus group. This is where a Cognia specialist interviewed the superintendent, the
Cognia review process is the assurances. So this is to indicate that the district complies with all applicable laws. This includes local, state, and federal ones. That the district maintains high ethical standards in their operations, as well that the district conducts regular financial audits to demonstrate and ensure transparency and accountability. Cognia has 30 performance standards, and we'll go over those more extensively in the slides to come. But we are evaluated on those 30 performance standards. Cognia has developed a rubric scale, and this rubric is, it has 4 levels for each of those standards. And so those are ratings that the district gives itself and Cognia also rates. 1 being the lowest, 4 being the highest. And there's specific criteria for each of those levels. So Cognia will evaluate the institution based on that rubric and against the set standards. So based on those ratings, we have our degrees of achievement, and we're able to use those degrees to determine areas of improvement or areas of strength. The Cognia's main goal is for us to be in continuous improvement so that when we are in this process again in 6 years, we can show that we have made some gains in those areas. And so we are evaluated on evidence that we provide to Cognia on their platform. We evaluate that evidence as well. So there are 3 main pieces of evidence that are submitted, and that is stakeholder feedback. So we know that when it comes to decision making, we need to have key perspectives from multiple stakeholders. So data that we did submit to Cognia included the superintendent's listening tour, information, surveys that we conduct regularly with our staff, students, parents, and community, as well as information that we gathered from our West Ed curriculum audit a couple of years ago. We also look at our student performance data, and we know that in reviewing that information, we see areas of strength and areas of improvement, and this also helps guide what we do in our classrooms. So information or data that we did review and submit included ACT scores, district assessment data, and graduation data, to name some of the main ones that we looked at. And as well, we look at the classroom environment. Are the classrooms conducive to student learning? And based on that, we know that there might be some improvements that we have to make so that students are engaged and that they are successful. This includes looking at our expectations for students. We want to ensure that we have high expectations for all of our students, that they are engaging in academic discourse, and that our PD is addressing any gaps that we're seeing in our classroom. And so those are the 3 main evidence types that we submitted to Cognia. And I'll pass it to Ms. Hans.
Thank you, Dr. Tice. President Sun, members of the board, I'm just going to explain a little bit more to you about this actual process. There we go. So after we collected the data necessary to write those institutional analyses, we shared that evidence with all of our sites, beginning with our This includes implementing relevant, inclusive, and effective curriculum and instructional practices, guiding staff in the continuous improvement process, and modeling and engaging in learning while supporting others. Programs such as our language classes for staff and our AIE partnership allow our staff in all positions to be engaged in continuous personal and professional improvement. In this category, TUHSD received a 3.5 rating. Again, the Cognia average for this category is a 3.1. The next one is Standard 16 through 23. This is engagement of learning. The engagement of learning standards emphasize a curriculum that supports an inclusive, student-centered learning environment. These standards assess whether the curriculum reflects diverse cultures, backgrounds, and abilities, and whether instruction is monitored and adapted to deepen student understanding. Central to the standard is ensuring that learning is immersive and actively engaging, and that institutional policies and practices align to support all learners through a robust and responsive curriculum. Some of the aspects that we looked at in engagement of learning was our curriculum, our advanced placement course offerings, CTE, dual enrollment, our ESS programs, our English language learner courses, and a deep dive into our extracurricular activities, including 21st Century Learning Center programs. So to expand a little bit on our curriculum, we're going to turn it back over to Dr. Laguna Suave.
Thank you, Ms. Moss. So as Mrs. Moss mentioned, that Cognia reviewed our curriculum specifically in the engagement of learning component. I want to begin by defining curriculums, just so we can have all common language of when we talk about curriculum, we're talking about the same definition. Curriculum outlines what students are expected to learn, how they will be taught, the materials and resources that will be used, and how their learning will be assessed. So what students are expected to learn? So that's the first part of the curriculum definition. We use our Arizona State standards to guide instruction. So a couple of years ago, we partnered up with Solution Tree. It's a 3-year partnership. In the very first year, we were tasked to identify the essential standards. So all the teachers, for every content area, for every grade level, they identified the essential standards. Once they identified the essential standards, they looked at the pacing guides, the scope and sequence, and they revised to ensure that it is aligned. So that is the second piece of that curriculum definition, how they will be taught. They use the materials and resources in order to have the instruction happening in their classrooms. We have our instructional materials, and we also have our core, we have textbook adopted curriculum as well to support that. We also have our assessments. This is our we just finished our second year with Solution Tree, and our second year was to really focus on assessments. And our teachers had the autonomy to create content-formative assessments. Also, some teachers, along with our OLS coordinators, refined and revised our end-of-the-course assessments. And we also use our state assessments to determine and monitor the needs of our students. So based on all these curriculum components, this allows us to really understand our students' needs, whether they need interventions or whether they need extended learning, which is enrichment. So the OLS department has committed to collaborating with our teachers to annually review our essential standards, refine our pacing guides, our scope and sequence, and ensure that we have the right material and resources for our teachers to support these initiatives and the resources for our teachers. The following list shows our core curriculum textbook that have been approved unanimously by the board. So you see the list of the publishers and the year that it was approved for those core content areas. So the last component that Cognia review was the growth and learning, and this addresses standards 24 to 30. And the growth and learning standards focus on students' academic progress and the development of non-academic skills that prepare them for the future transition. We have Mrs. Davey leading the Educational Data and Innovation Division. They provide several data points to our schools, and so they can use that data to monitor students' progress and also evaluate instructional programs. So we're so thankful for her division. We also have strong partnership with external organizations such as WestEd, Hanover, and Solution Tree, who provide those research-based findings and research to enhance our teaching and learning. So from the review, Cognia made some recommendations, and there were some similarities with the WestEd report. The recommendations focus on instructional model, differentiation learning, and assessments. So some of these recommendations we already have some action steps in place, and some of them are in the works. So let's look at instructional model first. Develop and implement an instructional model to include more inquiry and active learning to increase student engagement. So some of the action steps that are in place is professional learning opportunities. We know that this is an area that we need to provide more of that professional learning opportunities for our teachers to see what does high quality engagement look like. So we are offering some opportunities at this coming school year during our all-day PD as well as year-round. We also have PLCs, professional learning communities, and teams that are happening at the school site. So they're having these discussions of what does student engagement look like. The second, differentiated learning, enhancing differentiated active learning practices to boost student engagement. As I mentioned, we have a partnership with Solution Tree. This is our third year with them, and this year we're focusing on tier interventions. So really looking at tier 1, and tier 1 is instruction for all students. How does that look like, and what kind of interventions can we provide to our students who perhaps are not understanding or grasping the skill that is being taught, or students that are needing enrichment activities. So we're looking at tier 1 specifically, and then also looking at tier 2, what can we do to and help our students if they don't quite understand that, and also what does tier 3 look like, and what are the supports that are going to be in place for them. And lastly, assessments. We know that this is an area that we need to improve, but we are meeting with our teachers, and they are looking at their assessment and refining it, as well as the OLS department looking at our assessments to refine those processes. So the OLS department is dedicated to this ongoing improvement. We are consistently updating our practices and monitoring our school's progress. So those are the 3 main recommendations, but there were several things to also celebrate. Cognia at the end of the report shared some of the celebrations. Can we move to the next slide, please? Can you please go back 1, 2, And when we talk about some of the key recommendations, we're doing quite a bit, but there's so many things to highlight, and our teachers have been working really hard, and our coordinators and all this department. So our commitment to our values, our warm and welcoming climate at our school. So that is something that our principals have done so greatly to create that warm and welcoming climate at their school sites. The collaboration with West Ed, our degree program that all staff members can participate. We have extensive opportunities for our students to participate in extracurricular activities. We have Commitment Day, and we're working on our second Commitment Day to make it much better. We have collaborative practices, and the collaborative practices is involving our teachers. We have a lot of committees, and we ensure that we have teacher representation in those committees. And also professional learning opportunities. We're not just providing professional learning opportunities 1 or 2 days, but this year we're going to provide a lot more professional learning opportunities and really listen to our teachers. What are the areas and topics that they would like us to provide? So a lot of things to celebrate, and so we're just happy to have the Cognia report to also guide us and provide that framework on the areas of improvement. But just wanted to thank everybody again for their participation during this process. And with that, I will open it up to any questions.
Thank you for that extensive presentation, and applause to you and your team for your continued great work. Members, any comments, questions? Superintendent, guys, could you tell me when this curriculum, what year it was in place? I'm sorry, it was all, I think this is slide 13. So those are the years that the curriculum was adopted, correct?
Correct, and these are our core curriculum.
Okay. Now, Superintendent guys, in those years, could you list off the board members? I know, but I'm directing it to you.
Yes, so in 2022 and 2023, the board would have been Dr. Alda Luminera, Dr. Kino Flores, Mr. Freddie Gillon, Mr. Steve Chapman, and Mr. Devin Del Blasio.
And out of those 5 board members, how many of them are still here?
3.
And which 2 that are not here?
Dr. Kino Flores and Mr. Freddie Gillon are no longer on the board, although you will see Dr. Kino Flores in the audience.
So with that said, we are constantly being berated for not having a curriculum. Would this be proof that we have a standard curriculum in place as of date 2022 and 2023?
Yes, this was the last option, and as stated more eloquently by our teachers earlier, they don't show up to work without a curriculum. I think they were pretty adamant about the fact that not only do they have a curriculum, but they've been working on it all summer.
So the testimony that went to the ledge, would you say, in your opinion, is order on the curriculum?
In order? There's nothing on the agenda that we're discussing anything that happened at the ledge. It's not on the agenda.
This is germane to the presentation, and I'm going to take the executive order to proceed. Could you answer my question?
We get to have an executive order. There is no, not germane.
In regards to the question of do we have a curriculum and people who are making statements to the contrary, we have just gone through the accreditation process with Cognia. Yes, Cognia has affirmed that we have a curriculum, And not only that we have a curriculum, that it is, yes, not only a good curriculum, otherwise they wouldn't have given us our accreditation. West Ed would not have been here to review curriculum if there was no curriculum in existence. So yes, I would say people make a statement to the contrary, wherever they are making that statement, is contrary to the truth.
Thank you. And Rosanna, could you sort of elaborate the process if we were to adopt a curriculum? Like, let's say we need to move in a different direction. How would that look like?
Yes, President Sun. So just recently, Mrs. Shaw, she went through the process to adopt the Spanish AP curriculum, and the process is ensuring that we have a committee member, we have our dates posted, and that we have also the textbooks open to the public so they can review it as well. And then we bring it to the governing board, review the whole process and timeline, and then if it's approved, then we proceed with the curriculum that was chosen.
Yes, I recall the Spanish curriculum being adopted. If you could refresh my memory, how many years were they using the previous curriculum before it was updated earlier this year?
The Spanish AP?
Yes.
They didn't have the Spanish AP, that's why we wanted to bring a curriculum textbook adoption here, so then our teachers can have that textbook so they can, in order for them to use it for students for instruction.
So that was a new course. We had a Spanish advanced placement. We didn't have Spanish advanced placement prior.
So prior to this year, we did not have a Spanish curriculum. Or AP Spanish. Okay, so for all topics across the board, are we on task with the curriculum that is in place?
So we have our textbook adopted curriculum that we use, and that they've been recently, well, in 2022, we'll review them again, I think in 3 more years, to see if we will continue with this publisher or if we'll look into something else. But right now, what we do is we annually review our Arizona State standards, our essential standards, to ensure that we have our pacing guide, the total sequence aligned to that. Then we have our adopted curriculum as resources and like textbooks and also other instructional materials to support our scope, our framework that embeds the essential standards, our pacing guides, and scope and sequence, and then also with our assessments.
So thank you again to you and your team for continuing this continuous cycle of processing and assessing and so forth. We will now, thank you so much. Any other?
First, thank you for your team, and everyone else, not just for monthly events of accreditation, but for all the work that you've been doing. Textbook adoptions, we've had staff in over the summer doing curriculum writing, as has been stated numerous times. You know, I think one thing that's important to say is not only do we have curriculum, but there shouldn't be this notion that it's a one-size-fits-all document that just goes out from the district office. That's kind of how it was when I was a student. Stuff was just sent out. Most of the teachers didn't utilize it because it didn't work for their students. That's one thing that I saw when I first got on. We've been constantly evolving as some of our staff have alluded to, because it's supposed to be evolving. It's supposed to be changing. Our students change, the times change, information changes. So to live in this world of a one-size-fits-all curriculum document just doesn't make any sense. It never has, never will. And saying otherwise, I think is just an attack on the work that our curriculum team is doing, and certainly our teachers. And it isn't right, because everyone's working hard to provide opportunities for our students, which at the end of the day is what matters. So thank you all our staff at the district office, all our staff at the sites that are constantly working to make sure that our students have the education they deserve with curriculum and lesson plans that are current and relevant and not outdated.
Thank you, Member Chapman, for your statement. And without further ado, we can now move on to the next.
Madam President, I'd like to ask some questions.
Oh, please.
A few comments. Thank you, Madam President. First and foremost, I just want to commend all of us for ensuring that our curriculum is aligned with the state standards, and more importantly, responsive to our student needs. Our course catalogs and academic guides clearly show that we offer a comprehensive and accessible curriculum across the district. So this review just validates that our instructional systems are not only in place but are actively improving student outcomes, which is the reason why we're all here today. Student outcomes, improving student outcomes. So with that, just a few questions. I'm sorry if they're redundant. I'm sure you've already answered them. But these review teams, do we get up with teachers from across the district?
President Board Member De Palacio, are you asking about the curriculum or team teachers or the Cognia Accreditation?
For the teachers.
For the teachers, for doing the curriculum report? Yes. So they are made up of teachers through at least one representative from each school, so they can look at either ELA or math, social studies, science. So we're very intentional of trying to have at least one teacher per site. One of the things that we run into a situation is that we do curriculum work during the summer. And a lot of our teachers are teaching summer school or taking some time off, and which they should be taking some time off. But we kind of struggle with that, getting enough teachers to come together because of just various reasons I just shared. This year, we're trying to look at our calendar to embed the curriculum work during the school year. So perhaps a day and that they can come to the district office and then work on either the essential standards or refining their assessments or reviewing the school sequence and providing a substitute for them. We just want to ensure that we have more of that teacher participation and not to struggle during the summer to, try to have people come in and try to find a day that works for everyone, because that's another struggle that we were running into, that trying to find a date that would work for all of the teachers in that content area. But our bonus coordinators, they are the ones that are leading that work, and they've done a phenomenal job. And it's not just the core content areas, but all of our coordinators, like Mrs. Shaw, the language coordinator, our EL coordinator, Ms. Moreno, and also our CTE. So, we try as hard as we can to involve as many representation. But this year, we know we want to improve, and that's why we always think about how can we improve and involve more teachers. That's why this year we want to embed that throughout the school year.
Thank you for answering the question. I agree. It's obviously important that we have experts in the field that live this day-to-day and live their experience in this process. So follow up to that, are teachers compensated for any work outside of their contracted duties?
Yes.
So this work?
Yes, President Son, Board Member De Palacio, yes, they're compensated for their time.
Fantastic. Again, thank you so much. I appreciate all your help.
Thank you.
Any other members that would like to make comments, questions? Okay, thank you so much. And now on to the AI guidance. Superintendent, guys.
Yes, Madam President. I'd like to invite up Ms. Kara Suggs, our Instructional Technology Integration Coordinator, to go over our AI guidance.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, President Sun, Vice President Chapman, members of the board, and Superintendent Cayes. As Mr. Cayes said, I am Kara Suggs, the District Technology Integration Coordinator. And I'm proud to say that during the spring semester, we began the process of developing the first iteration of the district's guidance for generative artificial intelligence, also known as Gen AI. The purpose of which is to provide guidance for staff, students, and the community to better understand the benefits and the pitfalls of using generative AI, and to provide resources and support for the appropriate use of generative AI in the work that we do.
Together, we gathered and reviewed various resources, including that of the Arizona Institute for Education and the Economy. The documents were compiled, synthesized, and then shared with the Generative AI Focus Group, our think tank and co-creators of this guidance. This group comprised of teachers, administrators, district staff, support staff, and parents. We were also able to gather student input by surveying students in classes using Microsoft Copilot. Together, the task force and the focus group came up with the following stance for the district. And it states, we believe that generative AI will play a crucial role in preparing students to thrive in a rapidly changing world. Our district is dedicated to meeting students where they are, recognizing the diverse levels of understanding within our community. By using generative AI ethically, we aim to equip students with the skills and knowledge necessary for college, careers, and life. This approach will enhance communication and partnerships, fostering collaboration and innovation. In our guidance, we also included a definition of generative AI to establish common language and understanding of what it is, while highlighting key technical terms as needed. To support this important work, we created several resources for staff, students, and families. Shown on this slide are just a few resources that we will share. Among them is the Gen AI Spotlight, which is located on the top left corner of this slide. This spotlight helps students understand when and how they can use AI in their assignments. The red spotlight means that students must complete the work entirely on their own without AI, unless a teacher clearly states otherwise. Examples of this may be writing an in-class timed essay, take a unit test, conduct hands-on experiments, and so on. The yellow spotlight means that students may use AI with teacher permission, but they must give credit and show how it is used. Examples of such may be brainstorming ideas, check for grammar errors, receiving writing feedback, summarizing events to help with content analysis and understanding. The green spotlight means that students can use AI to support their learning, as long as their work remains original and shows their own thinking. Examples of this may be walk through practice problems or explain a concept in a different way, practice vocabulary and generate examples of use for better understanding, generate ideas for projects, create a set of questions for a podcast assignment, explore fitness and nutrition plans. In all of this, we will encourage and continue to encourage teachers to clearly communicate and model AI-allowed assignment expectations to include examples of appropriate AI use. This may mean specifying what elements of an assignment may contain AI-generated content, or perhaps what percentage range is permitted. For example, a teacher may designate 30 to 50% of AI content allowed on a green box assignment. This is at the teacher's discretion, and we want to ensure that we provide the support, and this is exactly what this document, these guidance, and these resources will provide. We are committed to ongoing evaluation and improvement. As such, we know that as AI technology evolves, we expect that guidance and practices will too. This document, its recommended guidance, and resources will be consistently evaluated and updated as needed, always with stakeholder input and with student success and safety at the center. Thank you for your time. At this time, we'll look at any questions you may have.
First comments, question.
Yes. Hi, thank you so much. I first, I think it's pretty clear that, as we move forward into the future, AI is a significant tool, but it can also be very dangerous. As of now, do you know of any state or federal
In terms of, I'm sorry, in terms of what we are doing in the district, we really are modeling and working with other districts to see what they are doing. Ensuring that what we are doing for our students and what we're allowing them to use and how they're using it is in their best safety. I can say that our technology department is really good at ensuring that any product that we bring into and we support in our district does comply with laws, specifically FERPA and GATE.
I see. Well, thank you for that. I think, you know, I'm understanding correctly, I think, you know, what you're saying is that we're working with other districts to maybe help models where students could integrate this into their work. You know, I think that's just really important because, like I mentioned, I think that when we look at the future, I think AI has a lot to do with the capabilities of, you know, everyday job structures or anything like that. So I think that, you know, allowing students to find that healthy balance, especially for those that progress into college or university, you know, that's very important in my opinion. So thank you, I appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
Quick question.
Yes,
Do you, was there a conversation around incorporating some of this information into the student handbook? And do you anticipate teachers incorporating it into their class of life?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the last part of your question. The teachers.
Did you have any conversations within the focus group about incorporating some of this information into the student handbook? And do you anticipate, or do you anticipate teachers including like these guidelines into their class of life? Is that coming there?
Thank you so much. As a task force, that is that primary group, we had a conversation, we had multiple conversations rather about policy. And we researched what was out there. We know that in recent governing board meetings, we had policy for technology, and that has been approved. The task force, along with our focus groups, we've had conversations about what's important, how do we police this? So we're treating artificial intelligence as a general technology that's going to help our students, a learning tool. And so that would fall under governing board policy that covers the technology in education and for student use. Now, in terms of this guidance, we are in the process of publishing that. We wanted to make sure that we presented it to you first, but we're in the process of that, and we are, my team is working with our curriculum department. We did have coordinators from OLAS in our focus group, and they are on board to ensure that we move forward with the use of generative AI for the benefit of our students. And so we'll work together this year to ensure that we have those resources in place for our teachers so that they can feel confident in being able to implement the use of generative AI in their classes for learning.
So follow-up clarification. If a student misuses AI, the IT, the technology, policies related to discipline come into play, or are they separate?
Another conversation that we had was regarding discipline in terms of what sort of rules or infractions students may commit with generative AI. The biggest concern that we have is for cheating. And so that falls under the student discipline portion of our policy. And so we are leaning on that to be able to determine what consequences may be for students who break those kinds of, or have those kinds of infractions, and that they're addressed appropriately.
Thank you, Mrs.
Just a few comments. I just love that we continue to be forward thinking and not demonizing technology. AI is here to stay. It's We get a task force and a focus group. You have plenty of teachers represented. You have multicultural education there, neurotypical education, our counselor coordinator, our English acquisition, and I can go on and on and on. Like, this wasn't just one person at district calling the shots. This was a collaborative effort, once again, to ensure that there's human oversight when it comes to the AI rollout. Not only that, but setting clear policy guidance. This is fantastic. I think this could be a model for others to follow across the valley. Because the truth of it is we ought to be proud of our students, right? How to leverage this tool, right? To ensure that they reach their best abilities and also create these individualized learning experiences. That's the beauty of this technology. Yes, there's always going to be something with technology that can be needed. But if we are prepared and have the conversations, which is what we're doing today, which is what your team has worked hard to do, by putting together clear policy guidance, we can avoid a lot of that stuff. And ensure our kids can leverage this to help elevate them to the next level. So I had some questions, but seeing that we're looking at this list of folks who were involved, I'm sure those concerns were addressed. They were mainly around just ensuring that, how do we support the students who might have a different access or a different experience when it comes to these tech resources, right? How do we ensure not widening the digital divide, if you will? But I know about the people we have in this room that was probably taken care of, but feel free to elaborate if you like.
Absolutely, we had those conversations, and I mean, some of the stronger conversations, obviously, were concerns that were brought up by our teachers, and they really had expressed how much this is needed, how much we need to ensure that we differentiate, even for our community and our parents, to understand what Gen AI is and how it can benefit our students and how we can be safe about its use. So we've had conversations about safety, we had conversations about how can we move this forward within curriculum and instruction, and I just want to say that this is the beginning of a wonderful thing. And this work isn't ending. It's just begun, and it will continuously grow. And our guidance and our supports and our training of our teachers and our resources, our community will continue to grow thanks to the support that you give us. And to all the teachers back here who are really going to be able to be the vehicle for this process.
So once again, thank you. I appreciate that we're not just rushing into something. We're not just putting burden on our staff or teachers, obviously, that are part of this process from the very beginning. And my hope for the future is as we further solidify this foundation again, that we also have perhaps parent classes or education classes about what to look out for, how our students are using it. There's so many parents I think in our community, right, that don't really understand how this works and might have some misconceptions. So I'd love to see perhaps some community outreach or parent engagement when it comes to how we're doing it in Tolleson when it comes to AI and education. But again, thank you.
I think in this first, I don't think there's a year I've been here where I've not heard staff and folks at different sites of district office just be very appreciative of you and the work you do and how supportive you are. So thank you for everything that you've done here and done for the Tolleson High School District. Just some similar points for me as we continue, like, obviously this is going to be an ongoing thing. I'd like to see possibly, like, in focus groups, is some student participation, get their insights, and certainly parents. I know there's kind of a mixture with some staff members on there, which is great. But certainly our non-employed parents out there, sorry, non-district employed parents out there, just to kind of get, that insight and feedback from folks. But I do like where this is going. I like the work that we're doing, and we're embracing this, but trying to embrace it in a way that it's supportive for students and staff members of the tool, and not something that's running or crazy with. So thank you for the work you and the task force have done.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for everything you do and your teams, and thank you for this amazing presentation and your input. I just have a comment regarding the artificial intelligence usage. It is predicted in the next decade, within the next decade, that the artificial intelligence will be using 20% of the world's energy. That's intense. And the reason I bring this up is that everything is connected. And although we are in this little bubble of a school district, we are still responsible for usage of energy of any form. So I like to, redirect that to sustainable energy. And I know we're ahead of that curve with solars and so forth. And moving into our new schools, we have now potentially to implement solar glass cells, which will be further to reduce our carbon footprint. And artificial intelligence, just like anything else, there is a fear factor, but rest assured, it's the same fear that we have when calculators were invented. And I think the first concern was that our kids were not going to learn math, and that is absolutely the opposite. These tools, when used wisely under proper guidance, it can be a tremendous time reduced so that we can all focus on something that's even more important and further move the district to student outcome. And we do have schools that are, having its struggles. I'm not saying artificial intelligence will replace all our troubles, but definitely it will be in the right directions. And anything you guys have in mind that you can see that artificial intelligence can do a great service in any areas within our district, please speak up. We'll be happy to listen. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
So I'd like to take a 5-minute break so we can convene then. Thank you.
There's a new weapon on the market.
Yeah, it's so powerful, it can take out more than one person at the same time, and you never have to reload. It can get past security.
I heard it was so small that it can fit in your pocket. No way my parents would find out about this.
I heard it could strike at the touch of a button.
Report, don't repost.
Stop social media threats now.
It's never a joke.
benefits of unified sports are social participation and the exposure to new activities, things that they might not have had otherwise had opportunities to participate in.
When we build our equipment and our kids who can't typically participate are able to do something independently, the joy that they get from doing that activity for the first time is incredible.
I didn't really like playing in front of people in the beginning because I thought I wasn't good at it. And then once I got used to playing in front of people, I got a little bit out of my shell. And now I'm comfortable playing with other people.
I learned that I need to be confident.
Oh, you want to be more confident?
Yeah.
You learn to be more confident?
Special Olympics has had such an impact on the Arizona community as a whole because we are really focused on community for all. It doesn't matter what kind of situation you're in, what is your disability. We are really here for everybody, making life happen for everybody, making fun happen for everybody, because sports are fun.
We've been playing like different kind of sports like volleyball, and we played this one game. It's called that. We wear these like uniforms and stuff like that. Like whoever had the ball, you stop, and we throw it to our teammate. Now we just actually legit play badminton day. Been training super hard that day.
Funnest, most happiest people I've ever seen in my life. It's just every day is just they have that positivity that can spread everywhere, like it's contagious.
Unified sports benefits students with and without disabilities in just so many ways. You see them come into the class at the beginning of the year and they're very shy, not very aware of how to act or behave, and then you just see these relationships blossom and then grow, and they truly do become like a team, and they're super close, super tight, and our students really do show really great examples of this throughout competitions, is really supporting those that do have disabilities and just having those friendships and building that support and having that support for one another.
I really enjoy dancing because I learned that when the first time I danced, I was shy, but then I realized that dancing can be not just about dancing, it can be about making memorable memories.
During these past few months of the year when we started, I feel that the most memorable moment is when we all started playing, not knowing what we were doing, but we still figured it out in front of everyone.
We love everything unified, bringing people together, athletes, partners, giving them that normal experience of a team. And as a district, we came together and said, let's plan these events, district events.
At first, I was coming into it not knowing what to expect, and I feel like that's most cases for like things that you haven't tried before. But I definitely feel that I've grown so much with it. I've learned a lot, and it's something that I want to do more with. Like I want to be a part of my future.
I think that you can look at the footage of students and see the smiles on their faces and know that what Unified Sports is offering those students in general is a great deal of independence, success, and joy. I think you can look at any single player and be like, this program is making a difference.
I think the partners too, like
for sure,
they get really excited to learn about our switch stuff and all the equipment we use, and then encouraging their athlete to participate. So I think it's a growing and learning opportunity for them that they really enjoy.
Join it because it's something where you're going to not only learn how to play a sport, but you're going to learn social skills with different people, knowing that when we go out into the real world, it's not just going to be us, it's going to be other people. And they're no different than us, but it's just showing that we're going to have that type of connection with special education than just gen ed kids.
I don't know, I just think Unified is one of the greatest programs that high schools can offer, and I hope that we are able to have more and more Unified classes that not just cater to Unified Sports, but then cater to all different opportunities and interests. So hopefully our program just continues to grow.
Yes.
Mr. Ortega-Romero?
Yes.
Mr. Chapman? And Ms. Sun?
Yes. Item H, action discussion item. Discussion and consideration to approve the fiscal year 2025-2026 adopted budget. Superintendent Guys.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, it is recommended to approve the adopted budget as presented earlier today during our public hearing.
Motion to approval of the fiscal year 2025-26 adopted budget. May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Lana?
No.
Mr. Del Palacio?
Yes.
Mr. Ortega-Romero?
Yes.
Mr. Chapman? And Ms. Sun?
Yes. Now the discussion and consideration to approve the amendment of the project amount for Sierra Vista High School courtyard project. Superintendent Guys.
Madam President, members of the board, it is recommended the board approve the amendment for the project amount for the Sierra Vista High School courtyard project, and our facilities director, Mr. Gabe Martinez, is available to answer any questions.
Members, questions, comments?
Motion to approve action two.
Second. Roll call, please.
Dr. Lana?
Yes.
Mr. Del Palacio?
Yes.
Mr. Ortega-Romero?
Yes.
Mr. Chapman? And Ms. Sun?
Yes. Number 3, discussion and consideration to change order number 2 for the new Tolleson Facilities Warehouse with right-hand construction. Superintendent Guys.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, it is recommended the board approve the change order number 2 for the new Tolleson Facilities Warehouse with right-hand construction. And again, Mr. Gabe Martinez, our facilities director, is available to answer any questions.
Members, comments, questions? None? Therefore, I motion to approve the change order number 1 for the Tolleson Union High School student parking lot. No, I'm sorry. I motion to change order number 2 for the new Tolleson Facilities Warehouse with right-hand construction. Can I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Lana?
Yes.
Mr. Del Palacio?
Yes.
Mr. Ortega-Romero?
Yes.
Mr. Chapman? And Ms. Sun?
Yes. Next, the discussion and consideration to approve change order number 1 for the Tolleson Union High School student parking lot phase 2 with right-hand construction. Superintendent Guys.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, it is recommended that the board approve change order number 1 for the Tolleson Union High School student parking lot phase 2 with right-hand construction. And again, Mr. Gabe Martinez, our facilities director, is available to answer any questions.
Members, questions, comments? Hearing none, I motion to approve change order number 1 for the Tolleson Union High School student parking lot phase 2 with right-hand construction. May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Lana?
Yes.
Mr. Del Palacio?
Yes.
Mr. Ortega-Romero?
Yes.
Mr. Chapman? And Ms. Sun?
Yes. Next, discussion and consideration to approve the proposed district nurses evaluation system. Superintendent Guys.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, it is recommended that the board approve the district nurses evaluation system. And Ms. Stacy Almaraz, our executive director of human resources, is available to answer any questions.
Members, questions, comments?
And I believe she has some slides to go with it as well.
My apologies. Please proceed.
Presidents and Vice President Chapman, members of the board, administration seeks governing board approval of the proposed nurses evaluation. The ESS department would like to go over the Director of Exceptional Student Services, and I'm here to share with you the process that was followed to create the school nurse evaluation tool. This is my third trip here, and hopefully the last one in quite a while. All right. Our purpose in undergoing this task was to improve our school nurses' professional practices by implementing a collaborative evaluation process that is aligned to their unique job responsibilities to meet the health needs of our students. And in our district, our nursing staff consists of registered nurses and licensed practical nurses. We do have 6 health office nurses in our district and 2 nurses in our CARES Level 1 classrooms to support our medically fragile students with disabilities. So it is a very small population. We'll be using this evaluation tool. We did create a community of stakeholders who brought different knowledge and perspectives to the team. And I'd like to welcome 2 of our team members here today. Tiffany Lee, who is our Medicaid manager and who helps to oversee our school nurses, and Dr. Donna Slaybaugh, our student success coordinator. She was also on our team, in addition to Mr. Jung, APR at La Jolla, and then 3 of our nurses, Olivia Tellez, Lynette Wilchin, and Angelica Yapura. So this was the process we followed. Our committee work began in March of this year and worked through May to discuss and develop this tool. We took a very comprehensive approach that was similar to our other evaluation tools that we created. We reviewed the format of our district's evaluation rubric to identify the domains and ratings used in the format of the rubric. We reviewed the scopes of practice and job descriptions for our RNs and LPNs. We then reviewed nurse evaluation tools from neighboring districts and other states. We identified our 4 domains of focus and work partners to divide and conquer the project amongst our committee. And then we reconvened to review those domains, provide feedback, and work through any challenges. We compiled all of the domains together, we removed redundancies, we combined indicators, and we labored over the most appropriate, precise language to use in our tools. And then we finally did submit this to Ms. Almaraz in June for review. This was a wonderful, again, opportunity, and we are very thankful for the opportunity to develop this tool. It does embody our district's mission of cultivating the future success of all students and staff so they can enrich our community. And it also leans into and demonstrates our value of excellence within our district. And so with that, I would like to thank you for your time and consideration and hopeful approval of this tool so we can use this coming school year.
Your presentation, and I will open it up to my board members. Questions, comments?
Yeah, just real quick, first of all, thanks for putting this together and wanting, as I said before, building out these tools and ways to kind of track what we're doing and make sure that we're constantly improving. Just one thing, and I'm not sure if I missed it somewhere, because I don't know what to add. Who does the evaluations? Who's going to do these evaluations? So it's site level, district level, and what's the position?
That's a great question. These evaluations are conducted by site principals.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, we're good. Thank you so much. Well done. So without further ado, I'd like to motion to approve the proposed district nurses evaluation system. Can I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Lynette Haddock?
Yes.
Mr. Del Palacio?
Yes.
Mr. Ortega Romero?
Yes.
Mr. Chapman? And Ms. Sun?
Yes. Next will be the discussion review of the board policy JICJ, student use of personal digital communication and electronic devices. First read. Superintendent Ends.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, this is a first reading. So this will be coming back for a second reading. And as you are looking through the policy, I want to point out that it is our team that that put this together. So we had a committee comprised of teachers and district office staff who have worked on putting this together. And I also want to remind the board that the statute has been passed requiring that we have a policy of this nature, and this is what our team has put together for the board's consideration. It will come back at our next meeting as a second reading.
I have a question, President Sim.
Yes.
I have a question for you. Why is policy BGF not included in this policy?
Please restate the policy number.
Policy BGF.
Can you say that again?
BGF.
So if you could refresh our memories, what does that entail, the policy BGF? And how would that be related to this current policy?
Since you are the president, you set the agenda, you should be familiar with these policies.
Not by heart, so please, if you can hear or any other members, Superintendent, what's the policy?
Yes, so again, BGF is when you want to suspend and do something all in one reading. We're not asking that this policy is passed entirely in one reading. As I stated just a moment ago, this is coming back at the next board meeting for a second reading. We only use BGF when we don't want to do a second reading and we want to do the policy all at once without a second reading. That is not the request right now. The request is this is a first reading. Board members have time to get familiar with it. When we come back in August for our next meeting, at that point in time, we're looking for the board to take action. We're not asking for action on this item. This is a first reading. It is presented to the board for their review. In our next meeting, we will come back and we will ask the board to take action on this item.
So I appreciate the thorough explanation because that was not what has been done in the past. You were picking and choosing when you add BGF and when you don't. And I find it very interesting that when it's a policy that impacts me, you do it in one swoop, you don't let the board digest, nobody has the ability to make any comments, and you do it in one reading. But when it's something that is like this, that impacts the whole community, suddenly it's okay to do what we have always done, which is do 2 readings.
Yes.
Sorry, because I know this was being worked on, and one of the requests was being on the agenda for this week, but I failed to clarify the request.
I'm not talking about that. Your point has been made. Thank you. Point has been made.
I can still talk.
Your
So
point
the
has been
request
made.
decided to be on the agenda so that our staff actually knew the direction that we were moving. For cell phone walkers, that we are currently in the process of getting ordered and delivered to our sites. So we decided it would be good for us to start having the message out there that this is the direction that we're moving. So.
If no further questions, comments, I would like to motion. I'm sorry, there's no motion. And then we'll move to request for future agenda. I know you requested something earlier. We'll have that in our next meeting. For any, if there's no other requests, we'll move on to just some housekeeping for the future meetings of the governing board. Will be August the 12th. Now we will be going back to our regular time, which is 6 p.m. August 26th, September 9th, September 23rd, all at 6 p.m. And with that, I would like to motion to adjourn this meeting. Can I have a second? Roll call, please.